Welcome to episode 39 of the 3am Fear podcast. In March of 1990, Estefania was 16 years old when her friend showed her the Ouija board. She became curious about the occult and started playing with her friends. They were trying to contact a friend's boyfriend who had tragically passed away in a motorcycle accident. They went into an empty classroom of the library, although it's not very clear. They were joined by at least 3 people, including Estefania's sister, Marianella, who stood outside the door as a lookout. Another sister might have been there too, but we are not sure. A boy named Juan joined them with his friend Antonio, the owner of the Ouija board. Juan was appointed as the leader because he had more experience with the Ouija board than others. The group sat in a circle around the board and they didn't have a planchette, so they decided to use glass instead. As they asked the board questions, the glass moved around the board, and that's when they believed that they were in contact with the spirit named Veronica. The teens thought that this spirit was evil. Estefania was getting nervous, and Juan encouraged her to ask a question. In response, the spirit claimed to be her recently deceased grandfather. Meanwhile, her sister tried to open the door to see what was happening, but the door was stuck. She asked her teacher named Dolores to help, and together they managed to push open the door. As the door opened, the glass that they were using fell on the floor and shattered. A strange smoke rose from the shattered glass on the floor, and everyone watched as it hung in the air and then entered Estefania's nose and mouth. At the same time, Juan noticed that the window blinds in the room were moving up and down. He was standing close to Estefania and later discovered a strange mark on her chest. After this incident, Marianella had a chilling experience when she felt a sudden drop in temperature and something cold grabbed her and lifted her feet off the ground for a moment. When they were caught, the kids returned to their classes. Juan remembered Estefania screaming, but Marianella seemed surprisingly calm, even after having such a traumatic experience.
Hello and welcome to the 3am Fear podcast. I'm Nikita Ferrao, mystery and thriller author. On this podcast, I talk about real crimes and real people. Due to the graphic nature of some of this content, listener discretion is advised. You can find the episode show notes on my website 3amfear.com. Let's get started.
Estefania Gutierrez was born in South Madrid, Spain in 1973. She lived in an apartment with her parents, Concepcion and Maximo, and their 6 other kids. They all went to a school nearby and were good students who loved spending time with each other. Estefania was like the caretaker of the family. She was very friendly and had a kind heart. She especially loved taking care of her younger brothers and sisters, and they were more like best friends than siblings. Concepcion, Estefania's mother, had the challenging task of looking after her father who had dementia. Even before his illness, they didn't get along and would often argue. As his dementia got worse, he became even more difficult, saying hurtful things that upset his daughter. In the early months of 1990, the family gathered around the grandfather's bed as he was nearing the end of his life. Just before he passed away, the old man whispered something strange into Estefania's ears. He said, quote, "If I cannot harm you in this life, I will do it in the next one." End quote. These were his final words. After the grandfather's death, life returned to normal for the family, as much as it could. However, things started to change, and something scary began to happen. During her teen years, she enjoyed all the typical things that any teenager would: hanging out with her friends, gossiping about crushes, and going to school. But her life took a mysterious and dark turn, one that would change everything forever. In March of 1990, Estefania was 16 years old when her friend showed her the Ouija board. She became curious about the occult and started playing with her friends. They were trying to contact a friend's boyfriend who had tragically passed away in a motorcycle accident. The Ouija board is a flat board with letters, numbers, and other symbols on it. People use it as a tool to communicate with the spirits or the supernatural. It has a movable pointer called a planchette, which users place their hands on. They ask questions, and the planchette moves to spell out answers. The Ouija board's origin is a little bit mysterious, but it gained popularity in the late 19th century. It was patented in 1890 by Elijah Bond, although it is important to note that Bond didn't invent it. He just patented that specific design. Many people believe that the Ouija board can connect them to the spirit world, while others think that it's just a game and that there's nothing about it. It has been a subject of fascination and controversy, and today you will find Ouija board among the kids' play section. But no matter what happens, do not mess around with a Ouija board. Even if it's a game, even if you get it at the toy section, don't mess with the Ouija board. If there's anything to learn in today's episode, it's don't mess with a Ouija board. Getting back to the story, they went into an empty classroom of the library, although it's not very clear to which room it was. Now I want to mention something here, that is, there are different variations to this story. There are different variations to a lot of things that are happening in this story. I took one route, and if you have heard about something else, then that also is a possibility. This story has been told and retold so many times that there are too many variations to keep track of. Unfortunately, there's one thing that has been consistent. That is, no one knows the actual story. They went into an empty classroom of the library. Although it's not very clear, they were joined by at least 3 people, including Estefania's sister, Marianella, who stood outside the door as a lookout. Another sister might have been there too, but we are not sure. A boy named Juan joined them with his friend Antonio, the owner of the Ouija board. Juan was appointed as the leader because he had more experience with the Ouija board than others. The group sat in a circle around the board and they didn't have a planchette, so they decided to use glass instead. As they asked the board questions, the glass moved around the board, and that's when they believed that they were in contact with the spirit named Veronica. The teens thought that this spirit was evil. Estefania was getting nervous, and Juan encouraged her to ask a question. In response, the spirit claimed to be her recently deceased grandfather. Meanwhile, her sister tried to open the door to see what was happening, but the door was stuck. She asked a teacher named Dolores to help, and together they managed to push open the door. Now, as I said before, there are 2 variations to the story. In one variation, it's that the sister could not get in, so she went, found the teacher, and together they pushed open the door. It says that the door was somehow blocked from the inside. No one was blocking it, the door was blocked by itself from the inside. But in another variation, it is said that the teens actually pushed things against the door, making sure that it was closed, and when the teacher started banging, they removed all the items and then opened the door for the teacher. As the door opened, the glass that they were using fell on the floor and shattered. A strange smoke rose from the shattered glass on the floor, and everyone watched as it hung in the air and then entered Estefania's nose and mouth. At the same time, Juan noticed that the window blinds in the room were moving up and down. He was standing close to Estefania and later discovered a strange mark on her chest. After this incident, Marianella had a chilling experience when she felt a sudden drop in temperature and something cold grabbed her and lifted her feet off the ground for a moment. When they were caught, the kids returned to their classes. Juan remembered Estefania screaming, but Marianella seemed surprisingly calm, even after having such a traumatic experience. At first, her brothers didn't notice much of a change in her, but it soon became clear that something was very wrong. During some episodes, Estefania's body would become stiff, her eyes turned white, and she foamed at the mouth. Her symptoms got worse over time, and her parents grew increasingly worried. They decided to take her to the doctors for help. Estefania saw specialists in 4 different medical centers, but none of them could figure out what was wrong with her. While she showed symptoms of epilepsy, she also had other neurological problems that didn't quite fit the diagnosis. For over 6 months, she went from doctor to doctor, undergoing numerous tests and scans, but no one could clearly say this was the problem. This is why she was facing all this difficulty. Then, one doctor prescribed Tegretol, a medication used for epilepsy, nerve pain, and bipolar disorder, among others. Unfortunately, even with this medication and others, nothing seemed to help. Some experts suggested that she might be suffering from a psychotic breakdown, while others wondered if she might be possessed, maybe the spirit of her recently deceased grandfather. Estefania's condition remained a mystery, and her family was deeply concerned. As time passed, strange things began happening to Estefania's family. Objects in the apartment would move on their own. Lights and appliances would turn on and off by themselves, and the doors would slam shut and lock when nobody was around. Even more frightening, invisible forces would grab, shake, and push her siblings, sometimes pulling them by the arms and slamming into the walls. The youngest sibling, Jose, even cried out as an invisible force shook his crib. Estefania shared a room with her sister Marianella, and one night her sister woke up and was shocked to see Estefania levitating above her bed. There was barely enough space for a few fingers between Estefania's body and the mattress, but Marianella was sure that her sister was floating. Soon, the family began seeing shadowy figures moving through the house, and they heard loud knocking sounds at all hours of the day and night. The paranormal activity was especially intense in the dark, and certain rooms in the apartment were worse than the others. The bathroom across the hall from Estefania's room was a hotspot for strange occurrences. One day, while Estefania was ironing her clothes, she screamed for her mother, claiming to have seen a shadow and that the iron turned on by itself, although it wasn't hot. When her mother entered the bathroom, the door slammed shut and locked them from the inside. They screamed for help, and when Estefania's father Maximo rushed to their aid, the door just opened by itself, as if it was never locked. By this point, Estefania's epileptic seizures had become severe, and her parents were at a loss for what to do. The paranormal activity in the house was escalating as well. The first time that they involved the police was when Estefania's boyfriend, Demetrio, was visiting. They were allegedly using a Ouija board when Demetrio suddenly fell to the floor, convulsing and foaming at the mouth. Conception tried to help by slapping him, but it only made things worse. They called for emergency assistance, and 2 police officers arrived at the scene. Demetrio was so uncontrollable that the officers had to handcuff his hands and tie his legs together. Despite the efforts, he continued to struggle and displayed unusual strength. A neighbor who happened to be a priest came to the apartment, but Demetrio attempted to kick him. The priest believed that Demetrio was possessed. Ultimately, Demetrio had to be taken to the hospital where he regained consciousness, and he had no memory of what happened. He did remember that Estefania was upset during their Ouija board session, and he offered himself to the spirit while they were communicating. The last thing he remembered was a candle flame rising towards the ceiling. On the fateful day of July 13th, 1991, Estefania violently attacked her sister. She would later end up on the floor with foam coming out of her mouth. The day after, on July 14th, Estefania had a serious attack of catalepsy and was rushed to the hospital. She fell into a coma and passed away that night. The doctors would go on to say that they are not sure of what caused her death, but the parents thought that the Ouija board had something to do with it. Estefania's family were barely able to cope with her death when the paranormal activity increased. Exactly 24 hours after her passing, that's around 2 a.m., they heard knocking on a door inside the apartment. Conception believed that it was her daughter following through on her threat to haunt them. They began hearing their daughter's screams at all hours, seemingly coming from every room in the apartment. In the mornings, Estefania's bed would look as if someone had slept there. Strangely, everything seemed to intensify at night at around 11:30 p.m. and this was the same time that Estefania was taken to the hospital. Maximo was skeptical. He wanted to find a rational explanation for all this. He installed motion sensors throughout the apartment, and one night, the sensor in the hallway went off, but no one was there when they checked. This happened repeatedly with no apparent cause. With Estefania gone, the haunting seemed to focus on Conception. She began feeling sudden cold spots and an icy hand touching her hands and feet at night. She also heard what sounded like Estefania calling out to her, often from the bathroom. Scratch marks appeared on their walls, and even crosses that had hung around the apartment would turn upside down. Shadowy figures would lurk in the hallways and stand around the beds at night. Conception even heard loud knocking sounds coming from Estefania's bedroom, and when she investigated, she found that her daughter's belongings were scattered all across the room. The situation had become unbearable, and the family went to ask for help from paranormal investigators. Unfortunately, their story attracted the wrong crowd. There were a lot of people who came who told them that they could help them, the wrong kind of people. And one such man was Tristan Breaker. These investigators often left the family feeling even more afraid and paranoid than before, and the paranormal activity would only intensify. In 1992, Conception turned to Tristan, who presented himself as one such paranormal investigator. Conception believed that Tristan was the one who was going to save her family. Tristan and his team conducted an in-depth investigation and even broadcasted this on a news program in October of 1992. After a series of interviews and demonstrations, Tristan claimed that the house was now free of spirits, saying, quote, "It's cleared," end quote. He assured the family that they were now safe. During the investigation, a medium claimed to be possessed by Conception's father suggested that he was the one who was haunting them. She also claimed that Estefania's spirit was trying to protect the family. Audio recordings picked up a female voice saying, quote, "Beware, grandfather," end quote. Despite this, Tristan's team didn't provide much comfort to the family. As mentioned before, Tristan was not one of those people who could be trusted. They even mentioned a demon named Crapula as the source of their troubles. Conception wanted some physical proof. She wanted to know whether the house was actually haunted, and so for this, one night, she spread flour on the floor to capture footprints, and the very next day, they found footprints. They were footprints of a man's shoe. Maximo denied that these were not his footprints, so till date, we have no idea where those footprints came from. In November of 1992, the paranormal activity escalated. Marianella and her sister saw a faceless, spiky, shadowy figure crawling through the floor of their room, tossing toys aside as it approached them. They were too frightened to turn on the light, but when they finally managed to, the figure disappeared. Terrified, they called for their parents. On November 19th, 1992, the whole family witnessed a dark, spiky figure crawling through the hallway. Terrified, they ran to the front door of the apartment building and saw a ball bouncing towards them. Maximo threw it away, but it turned and flew back to them. The air grew ice cold around them, and at 2 a.m., Maximo called the national police in a panic state, explaining that something strange was happening in their house. He told them about the inverted crucifixes, the claw marks that were coming on the walls. The dispatcher thought that maybe he was drunk or something was wrong with him. But they grew even more concerned when Conception confirmed that these things were happening in their house. 5 police officers, including Chief Inspector Jose Negri, were dispatched to investigate. Now this is important. What the inspector would write in his report would become a cult object among occultists. In his report, he described that the door of a wardrobe opened violently, despite being locked in a few seconds before. The report also talked about loud noises coming from the balcony and a mysterious brown substance that appeared on the walls and furniture. The climax came when the crucifix was torn off the walls by an unseen force, leaving behind scratch marks. The officers also inspected the bathroom, and when they did, they felt a sudden drop in temperature. The officers left the place in a hurry without doing anything. By 1996, the Gutierrez family had learned that they had to live with this haunting, or they had to leave the house. Remarkably, most of these trials, these hauntings, would tear families apart. Some would agree, some wouldn't, and you would often see families breaking up. But this family stayed close together. Over time, this publicity that the family had gotten about being haunted attracted legitimate researchers and parapsychologists. The family was recognized by these researchers, and they didn't just come there for money. They came there to find out what was actually happening in that house. These investigators employed scientific methods to study the house to see what was causing all these movements in the house. While some researchers found no evidence of paranormal phenomena, some others did. Journalists like Iker Jimenez and Lorenzo Fernandez visited the family in 1996, and they reported feeling strong negative energy and vertigo in the bathroom. Their camera batteries, which were once fully charged, immediately drained as soon as they crossed the bathroom's threshold. Another research team set up tape recorders throughout the house, capturing the voice of a man and a woman who were hurling insults, and they were demanding the investigators to leave. However, not all investigators experienced this. A news program's team visited the family twice, but they failed to find any proof of paranormal activity. They tried their best not to add any extra things to the story, but to be honest, they didn't feel or find anything. Because of this, there was kind of an inconsistency in the story because not everyone was experiencing the same thing. In October of 1996, all paranormal activity in the apartment stopped. This development happened around the same time that Estefania's body was exhumed. Now, according to conception, Estefania always wanted to be buried with a picture of her and her father. But because that didn't happen, conception believed that maybe that's why Estefania was haunting them, and so she decided to exhume her daughter's body. Now, not everyone believed in the story. They think that this was just a ploy and maybe conception had some other things to do, while some others believe that Estefania was just exhumed because they had to find another relative who was buried below her. However, as said, Estefania's body was exhumed and she was reburied with the picture with her. Soon after that, the family relocated, leaving the apartment behind for a new family to come in. Strangely, once they left, the haunting stopped. And the next family who came to live in this house did not face any haunting. In 2006, a paranormal investigation show covered the case, featuring interviews with Conception and Maximo. During the editing process, an unusual audio recording surfaced from the interview. There was a voice that said, quote, "We have not started." End quote. Estefania's sister, Marianella, wrote a book about her experiences. There is also the Spanish movie, Veronica, which is based on Estefania's story. Although the movie is based on Estefania's story, not everything that happened in the movie actually happened with Estefania, but what happened with her was much, much worse. Now, over the years, several theories have emerged regarding Estefania's death. While doctors described that her passing was sudden, some think that maybe something else was there behind this. Maybe something paranormal. Based on the tests, medical professionals say that she died of a heart failure and pulmonary asphyxia resulting from a pulmonary edema. However, they could not exactly pinpoint and conclude that this was the reason for the death. Given her young age, that is 18, it's quite shocking that she could die of such natural causes. During the autopsy, traces of the drug Tegretol were detected in her system, although not in quantities of overdose, but they were there in her system. Now, since she had been prescribed this medication by doctors for suspected epilepsy, not much was looked into it. This case became one of the most popular paranormal cases in Spain. Estefania's mother would undergo psychological examination, and that showed that she had some signs of instability, anxiety, and the need for attention. Now, this got people thinking that if Estefania's mother had this problem and a majority of these hauntings were happening around her, then maybe, just maybe, she was making most of it up. I'm not saying everything, but people assume that maybe she was kind of making it up because one of her major symptoms was the need for attention. But once again, as I said, this is one of the most popular cases because it was documented in police reports. Now, we can't say that the police were also wrong. The police did actually witness a lot of things, and whatever I said in this episode, the police actually investigated, they witnessed it, and they wrote about it in their report. So that can't be false. Something had happened, something was seen. It's just not clear what. Estefania's two brothers denied that any paranormal activity happened in the house. This has sparked a debate among investigators, many believing that maybe this was a fraud. The brothers wanted to clear their family's name, especially after their sister Marianella made statements on a TV show. They didn't talk much about their father earlier, but after he passed away, they gave out this statement and they said that not much was actually happening in the house. So once again, contradicting statements. Now, Estefania was a simple girl. She was not a strange girl who was excited about the paranormal and always wanted to know about the Ouija board and have all these strange practices. It was just that someone brought this Ouija board to school that day. She was just curious. Now, Estefania's mother did have some mental issues, and people believe that her seizures were actually inherited from her mother. Another thing to know is that Estefania never levitated. Yes, I know there is a part where her sister said that she saw Estefania maybe levitating a few inches above the bed, but that was hardly to be counted. She never actually fully levitated from the bed or spoke of any strange languages like we saw in the other episodes, or you may have heard in other cases. There was no strange. Overall, she was a very cheerful girl. She loved her family, she loved her siblings, she just loved her life. It didn't seem like she purposely wanted to ruin something. About the day that the policemen visited the house, no one knows how those crucifixes turned, how those scratch marks appeared, what about those noises that were happening before and after, the brown slime that suddenly appeared. No one knows till date what happened, how did it happen. So many investigators came in afterwards, so many researchers came in. Over the years, so many experiments have been conducted, but no one is sure how that happened. And because this is lodged in a police report, it is 100% real. When talking about the brothers, now some things I want to mention here when talking about the brothers, and I will list the source from where I got all this information. You can go and read because there's a lot of information over there. I'm giving you a summarized version over here. Now, when the brothers spoke, they mentioned initially that Estefania didn't like the Ouija board, but they admitted that she used it at least twice, leading to the police's involvement. They also said that Estefania's epileptic seizures were hereditary, but in another interview previously, they said that it was quite weird or it was quite unusual that she had a problem. So if it was hereditary, wouldn't they have already known that she had a problem and this was from her mother? When they gave out this interview, they tried to rationalize all these strange events, like objects moving around, flying things, balls bouncing on its own, these scratches that appeared. They tried to make it seem as, yes, it just happened, not something very strange. They didn't want to make it look strange. On the night of November 19, 1992, when talking about that, the brothers presented contradicting statements. One brother, Maximiliano, claimed that all the crucifixes fell and that one was reversed, but he couldn't confirm it firsthand. The brothers also mentioned that an officer saw brown slime on a tablecloth, which, if it was baby food, the police could have easily recognized. This case is also known as the Velekas case. So many people came in, so many people wanted to exploit this family and find out more information. Unfortunately, so many false news and false rumors have been spread around that it's quite impossible to know what's true and what's not. Now, it's important to know that despite all that happened, the family always stayed together. A 40-page autopsy report on Estefania's death was released. This entire report basically summarizes to say that her death was sudden and suspicious. The autopsy report mentioned that Estefania was overweight, so they feel that maybe her obesity may have led to the increase of some of her health conditions. But once again, we are not sure about it. It's just a speculation from the doctor's end. Now, contrary to what people believe, that is, this whole thing started with the Ouija board, it actually didn't. According to the source that I read, before Estefania's death, some incidents had happened. One of which was that while the family was watching television, there was a possession episode that came in, and Conception recounted this personal experience in which she saw a terrifying black figure approaching her while she was lying on her brother's dining room couch. Now, there are a lot of things that Conception would say, a lot of things that would lead people to believe that maybe Conception had made up a lot of things in her mind. She had imagined these things and maybe she had put these things into her children's minds and caused them to believe that something was more than what it was. This was long before the Ouija board incident. A big thank you to all my fellow listeners who have been listening to all my episodes. Thank you so much. Your listens, your support means a lot. If you love my podcast, if you love the stories that I put out, then please do follow me on whichever podcasting platform you're listening from, and please do leave a rating. It will really help me a lot. You can listen to me on other platforms including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other podcasting platform. If you are in India, you can always listen to my podcast on Gaana or JioSaavn. If you love to listen to strange and mysterious stories, then follow me on Instagram and YouTube, where I put out reels on such stories. These are completely different from the ones that I put out on my podcast, so do follow me on them. If you love travel, you can follow me on my travel channels. I'll link them also in the description. Until then, stay kind and stay safe out there.